Hello again, this is Dr. Lindsay. In this video, we're going to be going over business cycles. Now remember, the economy just doesn't go straight up on its own. It's got these little squiggles, ups and downs as it goes, which are known as a business cycle. So if we were to measure what output is over time, and output, another name for output is GDP, gross domestic product. The symbol for output is Y, big capital Y. It's also income. So Y is a symbol for output and income because our output is income in the economy. It's all the same. So if we look at how income changes here over time, or output changes over time in the economy, it's going to look something like it's expanding for a while. Output's expanding in the economy. And then at some point, hits a peak and starts heading down again. We don't know how far down it's going to go and how long it's going to take there to get there to the bottom, but then eventually it picks up and then heads up again and then reaches some peak and heads down and so forth. Now, these times when it's expanding, the economy is expanding, is known as an expansion or a boom. So we have this expansion or boom time going on. And then the downturns are known as contractions or recessions. Contractions or recessions. And the peaks up here at the top have a special name. They're called peaks. And the bottoms down here have a special name. They're called troughs. Now, even though it's called a business cycle, it's not like a cycle in terms of, say, a sine wave, where it's very predictable how long the distance from the peaks are or how long the distance from the troughs are. We just don't know that kind of stuff. We don't know the distance from peak to peak or trough to trough or from peak to trough. We don't know how long an expansion is going to last or how high it's going to go up when it's expanding. When it starts turning around, it's going down. We don't know how long it's going to take to get to the bottom. And we don't know how far it's going to go down. So in that sense, it's not like a cycle, but it does have its ups and downs. So it's referred to as the business cycle. Now, over time, we've looked at this business cycle. We've got some data for a few hundred years. And I can show you, there's a link here, what the business cycle looks like. Here's a link. It shows the peaks and troughs for business cycles here going back to like 1857 here. And it shows the number of months that a contraction lasts and a number of months an expansion lasts. And you can look over here and say, well, if we're looking at contractions, we go back far enough. Here's 18 months, 8 months, 32 months, 8 months, 65 months in 1873. So the amount of time that the contraction lasts is different in every downturn. And then we go over here and look at the expansions, 30 months, so 3 years, 22 months, 46 months, 18 months, 36 months. Some of these back in the 1800s, early 1900s, the expansions weren't all that long, probably just average of 3 years maybe. The contractions were fairly long too. But if you go further on down here in this chart, there's a few things you'll notice. And that is that last 50 years, 60 years, the expansions have been lasting longer and longer. So now since 1950, the expansions last on an average of probably about 5 years. The last two major expansions have lasted 10 years, or actually more than 10 years. So the longest expansions ever have been occurring lately. And another thing, if you look at this for a while, you'll notice that the contractions are becoming shorter and shorter. So now the contractions for the last 50 or 60 years have been about an average of maybe 1 year long is all. So expansions last a lot longer than contractions. And both of them, the expansions are lasting longer, have been changing. The expansions are lasting longer and the contractions are shorter. And the last contraction in 2020 really only lasted a few months. It was very short. So, stylized facts of the business cycle. Expansions last longer than contractions. And the expansions are becoming longer. And the contractions are becoming shorter. And these last two facts are probably because economists have learned a little bit more about how to stabilize the business cycle.